Before we begin this video, I want to give a little context to it. This was a final project for a class I had in college. It was a humanity class called The Global Village, where we analyze culture from all around the world. And in this project, we had to analyze a piece of art and then connect it to an idea that we learned earlier in the semester. I connected mine to Dharma. You'll see that near the end though. Another requirement for the project was that it couldn't go over 6 minutes, so that's why I talk real fast through a lot of this. I also didn't get this done until 3 a.m. the day it was due. That's why my audio levels are kind of messed up. You'll hear the music kind of go and overpower my mic. I apologize for that. The reason I'm even posting this video is because I believe the message and theme found within this game is very important for modern day America. Now, there will be people who engage with this type of media and say, oh, it's not that deep. You're reading too much into it. It's just a video game. And they couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is, when an artist creates a piece of art, they're pulling from their own experience, which is the human experience. It's different from mine, it's different from yours, but it is still a human experience. Two people can look at the same piece of art and come to wildly different conclusions. And that's just because everyone experiences life differently. And to come to these conclusions, we draw upon that experience. And that's why it's so important to analyze and critically think about the media you engage with. Because an artist isn't just going to create a piece of art with no meaning. There is always going to be a layer of meaning within their art. By analyzing and discussing art with those around you, you get to step outside of your own worldview and see how others live life differently or similarly to you. Now, having one of these conversations isn't going to make you do an immediate 180 on what your ideals and beliefs are. Instead, these conversations should serve as a challenge to your ideals and beliefs so that you have to reflect upon them and see if they need to be reformed. Think of it like the gym. If you want to get bigger, you're not going to keep lifting the same 25-pound dumbbells. Instead, you're going to keep going up in weight to challenge your body. And with that explanation out of the way, here is the theme of scene found within Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. The theme of scene in Snake Eater. In the story of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, the game blends its historical fiction with real historical events. The story takes place in 1964 at the peak of the Cold War. The plot centers around a weapon that the Soviet Union is developing called the Shagohod. The Shagohod will allow Russia to launch nuclear missiles into America, tipping the scale of power into Russia's favor, destroying the idea of deterrence. The Boss, a legendary soldier and mentor to Snake, defected to the Soviet Union to aid the Red Army in taking over Russia from Khrushchev. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the theme found within Metal Gear Solid 3. One character in the game, known as the Boss, is emblematic of the game's theme. Every Metal Gear Solid game uses one word for its theme. For the third game, that word is scene. What does that actually mean? Well, the Boss sums it up pretty well with this quote.
The foibles of politics and the march of time can turn friends into enemies just as easily as the wind changes.
According to the Boss, scene is a phenomenon of time shaping the policies and ideals of society, whether that be political allies or the held social mores of a given community. An example of the scene shaping events is Snake's conflict between duty and personal beliefs. In a call between Snake and the Boss states that,
in the end, you have to choose whether you're going to live as a soldier or just another man with a gun.
The Boss had to decide between her duty and her own beliefs. Instead of being her own person and fighting for what she believes in, she chose to live and die by the United States mandates. Snake believes he is also dedicated to his duty. However, that belief is challenged when he is ordered to kill the Boss. He is suddenly plagued by a conflict between his own beliefs and the orders he must follow. This internal conflict alters the larger scene. The theme of scene can thus apply directly to the real world and the global village. If the scene is the current context of the world, then those inhabiting it will use the scene to make their own choices, which in turn could start to change the scene altogether. In examining the world through the lens of scene, we can see how it has changed throughout history. In the 1980s, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Since the US could not get directly involved, they conducted Operation Cyclone, a plan to fund and arm rebel groups known as Mujahideen fighting against Russia. The Soviets were getting caught up in their own Vietnam, and eventually they pulled out of Afghanistan. In their wake, the Mujahideen warriors went on to form the Taliban. Fast forward to 2001, and the US is invading Afghanistan and fighting some of the same Mujahideen they once gave weapons and money to. The Boss mentions how in World War II, the Russians and Americans were allies. In the Cold War, they are now enemies, attempting to undermine one another whenever they can. In both cases, one can see how quickly friends turn into enemies, just as easily as the wind changes. In the boss's mind, if the scene will always change, then the goals of the government will as well. She does not latch on to the idea of friend or foe, because it is all relative to the scene. With this mindset, she comes to the conclusion that the only thing a soldier can believe with certainty is the mission. The idea of scene gives the boss insight to choose between her duty and her beliefs. Unlike the boss, Snake is torn between his duty to America and his loyalty to his former mentor. Since Snake is still a young soldier, he believes in the United States government and their mission. He claims to have the same dedication as the boss, but when his mission is to end her life, his conviction falters. As he puts it in his own words,
"She was like a mother, and my master. Half of me belongs to the boss. For 10 years, we lived and died together. You couldn't possibly understand."
Snake eventually has to overcome his own personal feelings and completes the mission. In the final cutscene, it's revealed that the boss was never actually a traitor, but a double agent, only acting as a defector to gain the enemy's trust. She was marked as a traitor by the US, so they couldn't be blamed for her actions when it was their orders she was acting on. Her legacy will now go down in history as a disgrace. In the end, it was her duty and loyalty to her country that got her killed. The theme of Scene sets up this question of loyalty to one's country or to their beliefs. This idea can connect to a concept in Hinduism known as Dharma, or one's moral duties. The idea of Dharma is that everyone has to find their path to nirvana. In other words, to reach enlightenment, you must conduct yourself with moral righteousness. The boss believed in her duty to the United States, even after they used her as a scapegoat and ordered her to die at the hands of her student. Her devotion to being a soldier is a dark reflection of Dharma. Both are ideals that you must commit to in order to fully embody them. Committing to Dharma and fulfilling that moral goal rewards you with enlightenment. Committing to duty and fulfilling that duty rewards you with no tomorrow, as the boss puts it. Metal Gear Solid 3's main theme of Scene is a message. That message is, there is no absolute enemy in the world. It will change based on political convenience and public opinion. The game builds off of the theme of Scene by highlighting the internal conflict of Snake. If the enemy is always changing based on politics, then what is stopping governments from labeling you as the enemy? If you are given orders that you know are wrong, would you still follow them? What lines would you not cross? Would you be forced to cross those lines anyway, just like Snake had to? These themes are more important today than ever. While blind patriotism and political loyalty are being weaponized, the scene continues to shift. Soldiers and citizens will have to choose where their loyalty lies. As the boss herself says it, loyalty to your country or your personal beliefs. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is more than just a game. It is a commentary on history, morality, and the human condition. Snake Eater serves as a reminder that, despite one's position in society, the individual always has the power to choose, to shape the scene of the world. The interactive format of video games allows people to experience these themes and concepts unlike any other medium in history.